You blink awake to a dawn sharp as ice. The biting wind, carrying the smoky scent of peat and tan, hides deep into your lungs. Before your eyes fully open, hands press an axe, a milk pail, or a wooden sword into your small grasps. Training starts long before you re strong enough to wield them. Childhood here is not softness, but a rigorous trial, a relentless lesson in survival. Outside, the frost-laced door of a longhouse creaks open against a bleak, grey sky. Inside, toddlers wrapped in coarse woolen scraps help churn butter beside a sputtering hearth, their tiny hands busy with tasks far beyond their years. A small fist tightens around a sharpened stake, knuckles white beneath stiff leather gloves, readying for lessons that are as much about endurance as skill. You feel the sting of the cold air biting bare cheeks, the rough rasp of goat hair wool beneath trembling fingers, and hear the steady crackle of peat embers snapping to life, the heartbeat of a family stirring into another day of hard living. Tonight, we step into tiny boots, in a world where childhood was no sanctuary but a gauntlet, where innocence was a rare and precious luxury few could claim. Pre-dawn mist clings low over the frost-bitten courtyard, the chill pressing against thatched roofs as a solitary gull's cry echoes through the cold air, slicing the eerie stillness. Barefoot and nimble, little Sigrid, no more than 8 winters old, dashes across frozen ground, breath forming silver clouds. She calls urgently, her voice rising as she races to herd piglets that have slipped free from their pen. Nearby, Thorvald, her older brother, lean and fierce-eyed, grips a training spear, its iron tip catching the first fragile rays of dawn. Suddenly, chaos breaks. One piglet bolts wild. Sigrid lunges, but trips over a frozen rut, nearly falling. Thorvald catches her, steadying his grip, and jabs the spear toward a sprung boar trap lurking at the pen. Edge, a grim reminder of the farm's uneasy truce with the wild. A sharp raven's caw shatters the fragile calm. The children scramble as fresh wolf tracks scar yesterday's pristine snow, the wild's silent threat pressing ever closer. Their mother's voice rings out, firm and urgent. Back inside, or the north wind will freeze your bones. As they hurry toward the longhouse's warm glow, Sigrid whispers a prayer barely louder than the hearth's crackle. Let my hands be steady. In this unforgiving land, fear sharpens young hearts, and courage is born not from choice, but necessity. Today, children enjoy cushioned playrooms, organized sports, and sheltered classrooms. In stark contrast, Viking children were thrust into adulthood, early learning to wield knives, mend fishing nets, and read shifting weather patterns by age 5. There were no sandbox castles here, only the unforgiving sand-blasted coasts and the steady promise of a blade in hand. Soft morning light floods a cheerful kindergarten filled with colorful foam blocks and storytime gatherings, laughter filling the air safe and carefree. Cut to a Viking croft, austere and weather-beaten. Rough-hewn benches circle a hearth-warmed room where children haul water from a stone well, breath fogging the cold air. A spinning wheel slowly turns as a young child carefully carves runes onto a small bone tablet by firelight. Outside, the grey sea pounds the rocky shore, while modern youth log hours on screens. Viking children mastered skills essential for survival and defense, knives sharpened, nets mended, and runes learned through patient repetition. These lessons were not mere pastimes, but lifelines passed down through generations by firelight and frost. We think of childhood as flitting, a season of innocence and leisure. For Vikings, it was forged in frost and fire, a crucible that shaped warriors and caretakers well before youth's bloom. Close-ups show young faces set with determination, small hands deftly sharpening blades, eyes scanning the horizon for brewing storms. The wind howls against the timber walls, a constant reminder of nature's harsh dominion. This was childhood stripped to its essence: survival, skill, and the shaping of a warrior's spirit. Where innocence was a luxury few could afford, the world they inherited demanded toughness from the first breath. Every lesson, every hardship, was a step toward a fate carved in steel and salt. A wide shot reveals children running along a rocky coastline, waves crashing thunderously behind them. Wild, unyielding youth poised on the edge of adulthood, as the modern world shelters its children. The Vikings sent theirs forth ready for the cold, the storm, and the fight ahead. For Viking children, daily life was a rigorous training ground. Infancy unfolded without cradles or comfort. Rites of passage marked the slow acceptance into adult roles. And every moment danced with death's shadow, teaching resilience, duty, and belonging. A newborn swaddled tightly in coarse wool endures the chill of early mornings, while watchful parents and wet nurses guard fragile life. This was childhood stripped of softness, where survival was the first lesson, and every breath a test of fate. In such harsh beginnings, Viking youth learned early that life demanded strength and perseverance. From birth, Viking infants faced a harsh world, swaddled in thick wool for warmth. They endured cold water dips, designed to build strength and immunity against the biting northern cold. Wet nurses played vital roles, gently soothing babies beside fires while mothers tended fields and hearths. The cold dip ritual, though stark, was a cultural practice believed to fortify both body and spirit for the trials ahead. Dr. Ingrid Falk, a child anthropologist, explains that this hardship was not cruelty, but a deliberate, cultural tool, preparing children for life on the frontier, teaching toughness before vulnerability. These early rites and care systems intertwined physical endurance with spiritual safeguarding, forging a foundation for resilience from the very first days. By age 7, Viking children apprenticed in essential crafts. Boys practiced carving spear shafts and crafting bows, honing skills vital for defense and hunting. Girls mastered weaving at simple looms and learned leather stitching, ensuring the survival of clan traditions and material needs. Under the watchful eyes of elders, these apprenticeships were more than chores. They were lessons in independence, responsibility, and community service. Every carved notch and woven thread was a step toward self-sufficiency, grounding youth in the skills that would define their futures and strengthen their kin. Rites of passage marked the slow passage from child to clan member. First, wound-letting ceremonies symbolized hardening to pain. Donning animal hide garments connected children to their wild roots. Naming feasts bound them socially and spiritually. Play was serious preparation. Mock raids sharpened tactics. Spear throwing contests built precision, and bone knife games honed dexterity and courage. Children smeared in charcoal and clad in hides moved with a mix of joy and focus, rehearsing the trials that awaited beyond youth. Through ritual and play, Viking children embodied the realities of their fierce war. Archaeological evidence from infant graves at Skrigakloster reveals the use of tightly wrapped linen swaddling more than mere blankets. These bindings were a crucial life-saving technology against the brutal Nordic winters. Close examination of linen fibers under magnification shows fine weaving meant to retain warmth, while soil impressions capture the precise contours of swaddled infants. Osteological studies reveal signs of growth stunting in many infants, likely caused by harsh cold exposure. Yet, the meticulous swaddling offered a vital buffer, reducing risks of frostbite and hypothermia. This intimate practice of wrapping a child was both a physical and symbolic act of protection. illustrating how Viking caregivers wove survival into fabric itself. In a world where the environment was relentless, these early measures combined care with cultural knowledge, giving fragile new lives a fighting chance amidst the harshness of the North. Excavations at Birka have uncovered a fascinating array of child-sized tools, tin whistles, miniature wooden swords, and bone knives that served dual purposes as playthings and apprenticeships. These objects were not merely toys, but vital instruments for teaching music, combat skills, and craftsmanship. Visuals contrast these scaled-down items alongside adult weaponry, with scenes of a young boy tentatively gripping a tiny wooden sword beside a hearth. Anthropologically, this form of play was serious business. Through handling these miniature versions, children internalized the physical skills and discipline they would need as adults. Professor Marcus Creed highlights that Viking childhoods were structured around survival skill acquisition, encoded deeply in everyday activities and play. This seamless blending of joy and preparation equipped youth for their future roles, making the line between work and play a foundational element of Viking society. Analysis of juvenile molars from various Viking burial sites reveals distinct abrasion patterns consistent with diets of coarse grain, porridges, dried fish, and hard bread. Scanning electron micrographs show enamel, where indicating early introduction to solid, abrasive foods, supporting archaeological finds of food preparation like drying fish on stone slabs and boiling porridge over open fires. This diet was utilitarian rather than indulgent, designed to sustain and harden children rather than pamper. Scientific insights suggest that early weaning and solid food consumption aligned with cultural practices aimed at fostering resilience from a young age. The nutritional regime was harsh but necessary, reflecting a childhood far removed from modern notions of comfort. It reinforced toughness both physically and mentally, preparing children for the demanding life of a Norse community constantly challenged by nature and conflict. Saga, literature, and forensic examination of juvenile skeletal remains hint at initiation rites, where boys marked their entry into manhood through symbolic acts involving their first wound or fishing hook cut. Visuals include a young boy clutching a fishing line, under the watchful eyes of elders, and close-ups of healed ceremonial incisions on juvenile bones. These rites publicly signaled readiness to take on adult responsibilities, defending the clan and providing food. The ceremony was not a mere formality, but a deeply ingrained cultural milestone, blending physical endurance with social recognition. Dr. Helena Prescott explains that these carefully administered wounds served as badges of honor, binding the individual to communal identity and obligations. This rite of passage embedded lessons of pain, courage, and belonging, preparing youth psychologically and socially for their roles in the Viking world. Birch bark rune sticks, bearing the handwriting of children, reveal that early literacy was intertwined with ritual and protection rather than mere education. Close-ups of runic inscriptions on bark show simple spells and practice marks, while scenes depict a child's fingers tracing symbols and a seeress teaching chants by firelight. Literacy was a sacred skill. Learning to carve runes was both an act of empowerment and a means of warding off misfortune. The act of writing was believed to influence fate directly, giving children a sense of agency in a world rife with danger. Anthropologically, this blending of language and magic positioned literacy as a protective ritual, embedding children within the spiritual fabric of their society. This ritualized learning provided psychological comfort and cultural continuity, allowing the young to hold power in the face of uncertainty. Dr. Helena Prescott and Professor Marcus Reed synthesize bioarchaeological and artifact evidence to reveal a Viking childhood shaped by resilience, ritual, and responsibility. Their combined insights paint a vivid picture of a world where every child's skeleton told stories of early hardship, play as training, and rites marking social passage. Visual overlays show skeletal growth charts alongside motion shots of miniature tools and rune-carved boards, culminating in a 3D reconstruction of a nursery workshop, low benches, tool racks, and rune-etched tablets arranged for learning and crafting. This immersive environment exemplifies how Viking youth inhabited spaces where survival skills and spiritual empowerment were inseparable. As Dr. Prescott notes, Viking childhood was no mere phase but a formative crucible where play became survival. Education was magic, and every small hand grasped the tools that forged the community's future. At the break of dawn, Viking infants like little Freya were gently carried to the cold riverbanks for brief ritual dipsa baptism, invoking Freya's blessing of vitality and resilience. The soft morning light filters over misty waters as a mother carefully lowers her swaddled child into the icy flow, smoke curling from nearby birch bark fires adding a faint aroma to the crisp air. The chill of the water against tender skin was believed to strengthen body and spirit, preparing the child for the harsh world ahead. Wrapped tightly in layered woolen swaddles, these infants were shielded from the biting cold, the weight of fabric a tangible comfort. This ritual of exposure and protection symbolized the Viking balance of challenge and care from life's very first moments. The murmured prayers of family and wet nurse mingled with distant bird calls, setting a rhythm that marked survival as both sacred and practical. From their first breaths, Viking children were shaped by a world that demanded toughness, blessing, and endurance. As the sun rises, children awaken to daily duties steeped in purpose. Sigrid drives goats across frost-crisp fields, her determined gaze fixed on keeping the herd in line. Nearby, Thorvald softly recites chant runes, vocal mantras believed to invoke protection and ensure a safe harvest. His rhythmic voice blends with the whispering winds. Little Freya, too young for chores, sits beside the hearth, tracing simple rune shapes in ashes on the earth, her first lesson in magic and literacy. The crackle of burning wood mingles with the crunch of hooves on frozen ground, while the faint scent of burnt ash and resin pervades the air. Every action, whether work or prayer, intertwines in the Viking youth's world. This early morning blend of labor and chant fuses survival skills with spiritual defense, grounding children in the community's rhythms and beliefs. It is a world where every task holds meaning and every breath carries intention. Mid-morning brings focused learning. Sigrid sits at the loom beside her mother, weaving intricate patterns on wool threads dyed with local plants, the steady rhythm of weaving echoing like a heartbeat. Nearby, Thorvald practices spear thrusts under the watchful eye of Bjorn, the shield-bearer. His motions sharp and disciplined as wooden spear tips meet leather shields. Along the riverbank, Eric assists the boatwright, shaping timber with careful strokes as the river glistens in the sunlight. The scrape of wood shavings, the soft thud of spear strikes, and the gentle rustle of wool weave a soundscape of preparation. These lessons are more than craft, they are survival, responsibility, and community legacy passed down through patient repetition. Each child hones skills vital to their roles, forging physical strength, precision, and pride. In these hours, childhood sharpens into readiness, the foundation for the Viking way of life, laid stitch by frost. At midday, the longhouse fills with warmth and stories. Families gather around the hearth to share steaming bowls of porridge, the scent of oats and smoke thick in the air. Elders recount saga shields, tales of ancestors' bravery and cunning, while children listen intently, memorizing lineages and lorens woven into the narratives. The crackle of burning logs underscores the rhythmic cadence of storytellers' voices, rising and falling like the sea. This meal is more than sustenance. It is a classroom where history, identity, and duty are forged in spoken word. The oral tradition breathes life into the past, connecting young minds to the community's values and memories. Each story reinforces the bonds of kinship and the expectations of honor, teaching lessons vital for survival and belonging. As children absorb these lessons by firelight, they carry forward the living memory of their people, prepared to meet the future with knowledge and courage. Afternoon bursts with movement and play as Thorvald leads mock raids around the stockade, the clash of wooden weapons echoing through crisp air. His companions dart between palisades, faces painted with charcoal and focused on honing tactical skill. Nearby, Eric guides a slender boat through shimmering river waters, expertly steering nets to catch fish. Sheechcast, a practiced dance blending skill and patience. The splash of oars and shouted commands mingle with the calls of birds overhead, while the briny scent of river spray fills the senses. These games are more than recreation. They are rehearsals for the responsibilities and dangers of manhood. Through these drills and fishing trips, Viking youth builds strength, strategy, and endurance. Every movement trains them for the trials to come, transforming play into preparation. The energetic afternoon binds them to their community's lifeblood, the land, the water, and the looming challenges beyond. As twilight settles, Sigrid kneels before vats of natural dyes, soaking wool in vibrant reds and browns drawn from madder roots and birch bark. The earthy scents of crushed plants mingle with the cooling air. Nearby, Freya carves simple charms from bone, her small hands smoothing edges with patient care. The soft rustle of dyed fabric drying on racks blends with the quiet scrape of tools shaping bone tokens. These evening crafts connect children to the traditions and magic of their ancestors. Weaving and carving are acts of both creation and protection, embedding symbols of warding and identity into daily life. The tactile nature of this work grounds the young artisans, weaving together art, faith, and practicality. In these quiet moments, the lineage of knowledge passes from one generation to the next, carried in every thread and carved bone. As darkness deepens, rune chant lullabies fill the longhouse, their soft cadences wrapping around children settling beneath thick wolfskin pallets. Freya's naming prayer, whispered by her mother, seals her identity and invokes protective spirits. Flickering candlelight casts dancing rune shadows along timber walls, creating a sanctuary of light and magic. The siblings huddle close in the nursery corner, a protected space marked with rune inscriptions and guarded by family vigilance. The warmth of fur and fire wards against the biting cold outside, while whispered prayers and steady breathing weave a cocoon of safety. These rituals blend spiritual defense with familial love, offering a final shield before sleep. In the quiet stillness, the children find sanctuary, guarded by song, spell, and kinship, safe until dawn's return. With the first light, the longhouse stirs. Children awaken beneath walls inscribed with protective runes. The soft glow of morning revealing faces marked by hope and resolve. The fresh air carries distant raven calls, signaling a new day filled with lessons and trials. Each dawn is a step deeper into the legacy of their people, rhythm of challenge and growth etched in stone and spirit. The morning light dances across woolen garments, and the murmur of preparations begins anew. In this place, Childhood is neither safe nor easy, but sacred, a time where resilience is forged and the future of the clan secured. As these young souls rise, they carry the weight of tradition and the promise of survival, ready to face whatever the world demands next. Viking children were not merely born, they were woven into the fabric of their tribe through powerful naming feasts. These gatherings were steeped in ancestral energy, where elders and seeress selected names with deliberate carefree, honoring gods or revered ancestors to channel strength and protection. Within the smoky glow of the longhouse, a baby swaddled in furs lay at the center, while voices rose in blessings. The scent of burning juniper and mead-filled horns filling the air. Rune staves rested nearby, symbols of fate and identity waiting to be claimed. Each syllable spoken was a promise, a shield against harm, and a declaration of belonging. In this sacred moment, the child's place in the clan's ongoing story was sealed, an anchor linking past, present, and future. This rite shaped more than a name. It forged a protective mantle, a social contract that bound the youngest to the tribe's strength and honor. Early rites marked the body as a symbol of endurance and belonging. Boys and girls alike participated in ceremonies where small, controlled wounds were intentionally inflicted, tiny cuts that signified bravery and communal support. In the dim light, a youth might endure a bloodletting, the iron blade glinting briefly before a healer wrapped the wound with wool soaked in herbal salves like honey and moss. The sting was sharp but brief, accompanied by whispered chants that reinforced protection and healing. These visible scars became badges of honor, outward signs of resilience and readiness to face hardship. Beyond physical pain, the ritual carried deep social meaning, transforming vulnerability into strength through shared experience and care. The young were inducted into a network of mutual responsibility, their scars speaking silently of their passage from dependent childhood toward adult agency. Such rites forged not only bodies, but enduring social bonds. Games like Hennefertoff were far from mere amusement. They were cognitive battlefields where young Vikings honed strategic thinking and patience. Around carved wooden boards, children gathered, moving pieces in tense anticipation, while elders observed approvingly. The soft clack of ivory or bone pieces punctuated murmured calculations and hushed strategizing. These contests mirrored real warfare, teaching foresight, deception, and tactical response. Through play, youth rehearsed the mental rigor needed on the battlefield, strengthening skills that would one day save lives. The atmosphere was charged yet convivial, blending competition with communal learning. This embodied form of education transformed abstract concepts of war and leadership into hands-on experience. Such training was essential, preparing young minds to navigate the complexities of clan defense and political maneuvering. Here, learning was alive, active, and deeply embedded in Viking culture. As adolescents matured, they sealed their loyalties through rune-bound oaths, personal inscriptions carved into bone, wood, or metal that symbolized commitment and courage. The ritual was solemn. A youth carefully etched runes with steady hands, the scrape of the blade a testament to their resolve. A gathered crowd witnessed the vow, torchlight flickering on determined faces, the scent of smoke and iron thick in the air. These runes were more than words. They were contracts binding individuals to clan, cause, and personal honor. Each symbol held sacred power, a lifelong reminder of promises made. The act of carving was itself a rite of passage, transforming intent into tangible legacy. These oaths wove personal bravery into the communal fabric, reinforcing social cohesion and inspiring trust. By embracing this ritual, youths stepped fully into the responsibilities of Viking adulthood, their runes glowing as silent vows beneath the flickering light. Pain shared in ritual cuttings, sparring matches, or contests became a powerful social glue, forging bonds that words alone could not hold. Young warriors stood side by side, supporting each other through bruises and bloodied hands, their camaraderie strengthened by mutual endurance. Women's songs wove through the air, chanting rhythmic blessings that echoed alongside laughter and fierce determination. The metallic tang of blood mingled with steady drumbeats, creating a visceral soundtrack to communal resilience. These shared experiences transformed fear and suffering into pride and belonging, rooting each youth firmly within the tribe. Pain was ritualized, reframed as a passage that connected individuals in a network of shared fate. This embodied solidarity fostered trust deeper than spoken oaths, creating relationships tempered like steel in fire. In this way, Viking youths learned that vulnerability could be a source of strength, and pain a pathway to unity. Rites of passage marked profound psychological shifts, ushering youths from childhood vulnerability into adult agency and social identity. A young warrior, marked by scars and adorned with personal runes, might stand alone at dawn, gazing toward the rising sun, a moment of silent affirmation. The cool breeze stirs the leaves, distant horns call the clan to action, and the steady heartbeat of a new warrior fills the air. This transition was more than physical layered identity with ritual empowerment, transforming fear and uncertainty into mastery and purpose. Through deliberate ceremony, the unknown was made known. Rites provided a cognitive framework to reinterpret anxiety as strength. The psychological architecture of these traditions offered youths tools to manage existential challenges, fostering resilience and confidence. Such rituals created continuity between individual growth and communal stability, embedding personal transformation within the clan's enduring legacy. In this sacred passage, youth crossed thresholds that shaped their destinies and the future of Viking society. Dr. Sigrid Themsen, a developmental anthropologist, explains how ritualized pain and symbolic acts profoundly rewired the Viking psyche. Each scar was a tangible marker of belonging and resilience, a psychological anchor in a perilous world, she observes. Through ritual, trauma was transformed into triumph, and fear into mastery. The repetition of symbolic wounding served as a cognitive tool to externalize vulnerability and reclaim agency. These scars functioned as badges of identity, reinforcing social bonds and individual courage. Thompson emphasizes that Viking youths didn't merely endure rites, they embodied them, making the rituals an integral part of their psychological development. Her research bridges anthropology, psychology, and history, revealing the sophisticated ways Viking culture used embodied ritual to navigate growth, fear, and community. These scars stood as living testaments to a society that transformed childhood dangers into enduring strengths. In Viking culture, childhood's dangers were not avoided, but embraced and harnessed through carefully crafted rites of passage. These ceremonies transformed fear into a shared narrative of strength, identity, and belonging, from naming feasts that wove children into ancestral legacies, to wound rituals that marked endurance, to runic oaths sealing loyalty. Each act fortified youths for the demands of their world. The communal pain and play they experienced knit them tightly into the social fabric, preparing them for roles as warriors, caretakers, and leaders. These pathways of purpose carried them from vulnerable youth to empowered adults, embedding personal growth within collective tradition. The scars, chants, and runes were not mere customs but vital tools of psychological transformation and social cohesion. Through this lens, we glimpse a culture that recognized the profound power of ritual to shape human experience, turning childhood perils into foundations for resilience, courage, and legacy. Their rites tell us how a people forged strength from vulnerability, securing an enduring legacy across generations. Vikings didn't lay their infants on cold, bare floors. Beneath the wooden boards of their longhouses, thick layers of soft sphagnum moss were carefully packed, creating natural cribs that cushioned fragile bodies and offered antiseptic protection. This moss was not just a cushion but a living shield against infections and dampness. Archaeobotanical evidence reveals how these moss beds absorbed moisture and softened the harshness of stone or dirt beneath, making the nursery pit a sanctuary for the youngest. The faint, earthy aroma of moss mingled with the warmth of the hearth's glow, transforming the space into a haven where infant survival was nurtured with ingenuity. This simple yet sophisticated layering demonstrates Viking caregivers' deep understanding of nature's gifts and early pediatric care. A tender act of protection in a demanding world. Doorways in Viking homes were more than entrances. They were guarded portals, warded with carved runes, invoking the protection of the Gear gods. Runes etched deeply along doorposts transformed these thresholds into sacred barriers against malevolent spirits and illness. Mothers often traced their fingers over these symbols before closing the door, reinforcing their power through touch and belief. The rough grain of wood under fingertips and the flickering candlelight casting dancing, rune shadows created a sensory ritual that embedded security in everyday movements. These rune-sealed thresholds acted as psychological and spiritual bulwarks, giving families a tangible sense of safety and control over unseen dangers. More than decorative carvings, these protective inscriptions were woven into the fabric of domestic life, a daily defense for the most vulnerable, especially children, against the world's uncertainties. Nursing mothers wore cow horn amulets inscribed with healing runes and protective symbols, tangible talismans believed to ensure steady milk flow and promote infant health. These charms, often polished smooth and worn close to the heart, blended the sacred with the practical physical extension of a mother's hope and magic. Midwives whispered blessings while helping new mothers, reinforcing the spiritual potency of these amulets. The warmth of skin against polished horn and the soft murmur of chants created intimate moments of care. Milk was life itself in Viking culture, essential for growth and survival, and securing its flow was a sacred act deeply embedded in daily ritual. These milk blessing charms encapsulate the merging of motherhood and magic, offering both comfort and confidence in a world where infant mortality loomed large. When children fell ill, families erected small canvas tents within the longhouse, hung with runic banners and scented with healing herbs like juniper and birch. These cider sleep tents served as spiritual incubators, where seeresses performed trance rituals to shield the child's soul from harm. The dim interior, illuminated by flickering oil lamps, filled with curling smoke and low, whispered chants, created an immersive environment for healing. The smoky tang of juniper mingled with the soft flutter of fabric stirred by the hearth's breeze, weaving a cocoon of protection around the ailing child. These tents embodied a holistic approach that combined practical care with spiritual safeguarding, reflecting the Viking belief in the inseparability of mind and body. Cider rituals infused the space with transformative power, turning illness into a battle fought both in the physical and spiritual realms. Children's garments were often stitched with protective runes, their symbols embroidered into wool or linen fabrics to ward off illness and misfortune. These runic stitches acted as everyday talismans, worn close to the skin as constant shields. The tactile sensation of coarse wool embroidered with red thread offered both physical warmth and symbolic protection. A mother carefully dressed her child, the soft flickering firelight playing across intricate rune patterns, weaving a silent prayer into every seam. The faint scent of lanolin mingled with the smoke of the hearth, grounding the child in tradition and safety. In Viking culture, clothing transcended mere fabric. It became a moving sanctuary, carrying spiritual guardianship wherever the child roamed. These protective garments formed an intimate connection between material culture and magical belief, ensuring that children bore constant wards against the perils of their world. Herbal pillows stuffed with fragrant plants like mugwort, chamomile, and yarrow were placed beneath children's heads to soothe fevers and ward off nightmares. Mothers and healers prepared poultices from crushed herbs, gently applying them to swollen limbs and fevered brows as part of daily care rituals. The herbal aroma of mugwort filled the air, blending with whispered lullabies and the soft rustling of leaves. These natural remedies were part medicine, part magic, the medieval pharmacy of Viking households. The warmth of a compress against flushed skin and the soothing scent of herbs brought physical relief and spiritual comfort. This integration of botanical knowledge and ritual care underscores a culture deeply connected to its environment, where healing was holistic and intimately tied to nature's gifts. Such practices nurtured fragile lives, weaving science and spirituality into every act of protection. Beyond household protections, Viking children often carried small amulets, carved bones, stones, or metal tokens inscribed with runes, gifts from family members meant to shield them from unseen dangers. A child might clutch a tiny rune-inscribed pendant, its smooth surface cool against their palm. Elders passed down these charms with whispered blessings, imbuing them with ancestral power. Firelight flickered on polished stones and weathered bone, symbols of a protective lineage spanning generations. These personal guardians bridged the material and spiritual worlds, serving as constant companions through childhood's uncertainties. The tactile presence of an amulet reassured both child and caregiver, a physical manifestation of hope and security. In Viking belief, these charms ensured safe passage through the perilous journey from infancy to adulthood, embodying love, faith, and cultural continuity. Professor Leif Gunnarsson, material culture specialist, explains how Vikings engineered microenvironments that combined natural materials and runic magic to safeguard children. They created early pediatric wards of wood, moss, and rune spaces designed for survival and spiritual protection. Dr. Ingrid Falk, ethnobotanist, adds, moss beds and herbal pillows were not only comforting, but functioned as natural incubators, demonstrating sophisticated medieval healthcare. Split-screen interviews intertwine with reenactments of moss-lined cribs, rune-carved doorways, and cider sleep tents. Detailed animations map how these elements formed a holistic system of child protection. The closing reflection ties these ancient practices to human resilience. Behind every tender gesture lay layers of knowledge, faith, and innovation. The slow zoom out from a glowing rune-inscribed door to the moss-lined nursery pit reveals a hidden world, a sanctuary woven into Viking life to safeguard the future. Modern parents surround their toddlers with padded playpens and soft mats, crafting safe spaces where curiosity can roam without harm. Vikings, though without foam or fabric, created their own protective havens. Moss-lined nursery pits, nestled beneath longhouse floors, cushioned infants with natural, antiseptic sphagnum moss, while rune-inscribed wooden cradles surrounded them with symbolic guardianship. Both methods served the same purpose: containment and cushioning, providing a sanctuary from the world's dangers. The soft rustle of fabric in a modern nursery echoes the gentle whisper of moss underfoot in a Viking home. Sunlight, filtering through longhouse cracks, warmed the mossy beds just as morning light streams through windows today. Across cultures and centuries, the impulse to shield children with comfort and protection remains constant, a universal act of love and care that shapes the earliest human experience. Where modern baby monitors beep softly to alert parents of a restless child, Vikings employed rune-carved stakes placed at doorways or outside sleeping tents to ward off evil spirits and signal approaching danger. These stakes, glowing faintly in torchlight, were believed to form protective barriers, detecting unseen threats before harm could come. The contrast is striking. Electronic screens displaying digital sounds versus whispered incantations accompanying flickering flames. Yet, the underlying goal is identical: to give caregivers peace of mind and early warning in the vulnerable hours of night. Whether through cutting-edge technology or sacred talismans, parents invent systems that extend their watchfulness beyond physical presence. This fusion of monitoring and magic reflects a timeless human need to safeguard children through any means available. Today's vaccines stand as scientific bulwarks against childhood disease, administered with sterile precision. Viking mothers, in contrast, relied on milk-blessing charms, amulets carved from cow horn and inscribed with healing runes to encourage healthy lactation and protect infants from illness. These charms were worn close to the body, imbued with blessings whispered by midwives, blending spiritual care with practical hope. The clinical scent of antiseptics contrasts with the earthy aroma of herbs and worn leather in Viking homes, yet both embody ritualized acts of protection. While the methods differ, the commitment to preserving life unites them. Vaccinations and charms alike reveal a cultural dedication to nurturing the vulnerable, illustrating how societies across time have interwoven physical health and symbolic guardianship in their quest to shield the young. Children today develop through colorful blocks and puzzles that stimulate cognitive growth and fine motor skills. Viking youth prepared for life's harsh realities with carved wooden spears and strategic board games like Hinafatafa contest mirroring warfare's tactics. Scenes shift from toddlers stacking vibrant Lego bricks to Viking children wielding miniature weapons and contemplating complex game moves by firelight. The click of plastic pieces echoes the scrape of wood on stone, each sound underscoring play's formative role. For Vikings, play was far from mere amusement. It was vital training, sharpening minds and muscles for survival. This continuity highlights play as an essential bridge between childhood and adulthood, an adulthood arena where skills are honed, instincts awakened, and social bonds forged. Across centuries, the fundamental purpose of play remains: preparation for the challenges of life. Dr. Emma Clark, a child development expert, observes how ancient rune wards and modern safety innovations alike reflect enduring parental instincts. She explains that whether carving protective symbols into wood or designing walk-behind strollers, caregivers create physical and psychological barriers that guard children from harm. Interview footage shows reenactments of rune carvings alongside toddlers exploring safety gates and harnesses. Clark emphasizes that safety rituals adapt with technology, but their roots lie deep in the human need to nurture and protect. This insight bridges millennia. affirming that both ancient and modern cultures share a profound commitment to childhood safety. It is a testament to humanity's unwavering dedication to shielding the vulnerable and fostering secure environments where children can grow. Pediatric sociologist Dr. Navin Patel reflects on how every culture invents its own protective rituals, be they digital apps that monitor children's well-being or amulets that shield from spiritual harm. Split-screen images contrast parents using smartphone baby monitors with Viking caregivers performing protective rites beneath flickering torchlight. Patel highlights that these rituals externalize collective anxiety and care, providing frameworks for parents to feel empowered in safeguarding their children. This duality underscores a timeless truth. Despite cultural differences and technological shifts, the core social function remains to preserve childhood and grant peace of mind. Protective rituals are thus foundational pillars in societies worldwide, evolving in form but constant in purpose. From moss-lined nursery pits to memory foam mattresses, from rune prayers to mobile alerts, the evolution of child safety is a story of changing tools but unchanging intent. A montage traces this journey. Viking crib pits beneath wooden floors give way to modern nurseries filled with sensor-equipped cribs, video monitors, and soft bedding. Ambient sounds blend the deep resonance of ancient chants with modern lullabies and gentle electronic beeps. Each innovation reflects a parent's fierce determination to protect and nurture fragile life. This continuum reveals human ingenuity at its core, creative adaptation to ever-new challenges, with love as the constant. The passage of time has transformed methods but preserved the heart of parenting, an unyielding commitment to guard the next generation against the fragility of the world. Across centuries and continents, the bond connecting Viking rune wards to today's car seats is unmistakable. An expression of love through protection. Visuals flow from a Viking child wrapped in a rune-marked cloak to a modern infant securely fastened in a crib. Soft breathing, gentle rocking motions, and whispered prayers ancient and modern intertwine, underscoring the shared human experience. This enduring continuity of care reminds us that despite vast cultural and technological differences, the essence of parenting remains unchanged. Hope, vigilance, and an unrelenting desire to shield the tender lives we cherish. The tools may vary, but the heart is eternal. This timeless commitment to childhood safety is a universal story woven through history, bound by love, and carried forward in every lullaby sung and every hand held through the night. Sunrise spills golden light over a mist-cloaked fjord, where the silent longhouse stands timeless. At its sturdy door, children's runes remain carved, deep marks of protection and identity etched by small hands long ago. Life as a Viking child was relentless and raw, yet in the daily hardships they found unyielding community. Through ritual chants, carved symbols, and shared stories, hope was woven into the fabric of their days, and in one another they discovered the strength to endure. Sigrid and Thorvald stir awake to the dawn's first light, stepping beyond their sleeping places into a new day filled with lessons of rune, craft, and courage. Far removed, yet somehow connected, a modern parent gently tucks their child into a crib, humming a lullaby, two worlds bridged by the same fierce love and quiet fear. Childhood may be fleeting, but its lessons ripple through time, from moss-lined cribs beneath ancient floors to padded car seats of today. Humanity's greatest quest remains unchanged, to protect innocence and forge resilience in the young. So next time you watch a child at play, remember those tiny Vikings who learned life harshest lessons and let their courage inspire your own journey through life's storms. The final image lingers on a single rune-carved wooden toy, half hidden in soft moss, both fragile and enduring, a timeless symbol of childhood's delicate strength.